We've all been gifted 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter how much money you make or what your social status is. It's the same for all. So the question today is, what's consuming your 24? If you picture time as food that you feed into your day, what appetite are you feeding and feeding day after day? Because whatever that is, that's what's going to grow in your life. Let's talk about it.
I think we all have things in our lives that we could be spending less time doing. And on the flip side, I think that there's a lot of things that we could be spending more time, uh, investing more time into. And I think that we all know exactly what those two opposing things are. And the crazy thing about it is that we've all been guilty about this. We blame our lack of productivity on not having enough time. Um, and listen, I'll be the first to admit, like I understand, time can be a challenge, and sometimes we struggle with that. However, often the things that we should be doing less of, or in some cases that we shouldn't be doing at all, are the very things, like those are the actual things that are keeping us from doing the things that we should be working on. It's like those things are distractions that steal our time, whether it be like short period of time or long period of time, but it's taking away time that we could be spending on doing something a little bit more productive. And it's crazy because it's not like people don't know how to do the stuff that they want to do. It's that they don't know how to stop doing the other stuff, the stuff that's not productive. I think that's where people get stuck. And honestly, these things are different for everybody. Everybody has a different kind of thing that they kind of struggle with. It could be that you spend too much time sleeping, that you snooze in a little bit too much. Maybe you spend too much time playing video games. Like these aren't bad things, but you spend too much time on it. Maybe it's that you spend too much time, eating like a bad diet. Maybe it's just bad diet, and maybe it's just too much of a bad habit with those things. So really what this is, it's an appetite, right? But it's a negative appetite. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to just make the decision to say, you know what? I'm gonna stop feeding into this thing. Whatever that is, I'm gonna stop feeding into it, or I'm gonna feed less into that. And then the second thing, and this is kind of obvious, but I'm gonna start feeding into the good stuff, into the more productive things. Because usually it's not like you can just stop doing something and leave it at that. You have to fill that time with something else, something that adds value to your life, something that is, think about it as something that's you're feeding into your goals. And I know that this sounds like super simplistic and obvious, like the things that I'm saying, these aren't things that you haven't heard before. But here's the thing, sometimes we just need to hear these very things over and over again to like really get it in your spirit. And I think that what people will find is that the more you feed the good stuff, spending time with God, speaking positive words over your life, working towards your goals, your fitness, those kinds of things, the more that you feed those things, that you nurture those things, the more your desire for the other stuff, the not so good stuff, will begin to starve and die out. You'll find that actually there won't be enough time for those other things. And in a way, even your desire for those things won't be as prevalent in your life. And listen, I want to be clear, the quote unquote other stuff is not necessarily bad all the time. But in a way, it's like you want to tip the scale in favor of let's call it the nutritional stuff. And you know what I think happens is that people, and when I say people, I'm including myself, we do things with the intention of, I just need to get this out of my system. So I know that I snoozed a couple hours, but I'm just gonna snooze a few more. Or you know what? I know that I watched 7 episodes of this thing last night, but just 2 more episodes of that. And so we do this thing thinking, you know what? I'll just get this out of my system now and I'll start that other stuff tomorrow. But what ends up happening is that we end up feeding into this, and we end up creating almost like an irresistible desire for this other stuff. But the good news is that it works both ways. So all we need to do is reverse it. So you want to create a desire, an appetite for the beneficial stuff, and decrease the desire for the not so good stuff. And to do this, we have to do something that I like to call consistent persistence, meaning consistent meaning that you're doing this thing repeatedly, but persistence meaning that even when obstacles arise and things get in your way, you still persevere, you still kind of press in and push right through those things. You know, there's a really like a super popular Bible verse that talks about walking through the valley. Every time I think about it, it reminds me, I think about how it's saying to walk through it, not around it, not over it, but walk right through it. And it reads, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. So I want to close by asking you, what are you feeding into? What would you say is the primary consumer of your time right now? Are there things that you could be spending more time doing and things that you could be spending less time doing? And are they obvious? Like as soon as I asked that, did something come to mind? Are there things that came immediately to mind thinking, yeah, maybe I do that a little too much? So I'm asking, are you feeding your goals or are you feeding the thing that's stealing away time from working on your goals? And then to my fellow Christians, I ask, are you feeding your flesh or are you feeding your spirit? So if you remember anything from what I've shared here with you today, is that whatever you feed into your life, that's what's gonna grow. So let's self-examine and be honest with ourselves on what those things are. So I want to encourage you to start feeding and pouring into the right areas of your life. I hope this video blessed you and keep the fire alive, my friends.